Okay. Well, it's so nice to be here. I see some familiar faces. I'm Andrea Guerrero. I'm the executive director of Alliance San Diego. And I myself am an immigrant from Mexico. My father and mother met in Mexico. My father, Mexican, my mother, American. They met, they married, they had me. I lived there for a number of years until I was of school age, and then I was able to immigrate to the United States and get citizenship through my mother. So I had that privilege and benefit. Many of my family members did not. My parents separated, and so my father himself had to navigate the immigration system. He came to the U.S. when I was 15 and many of my family members came with him at a time when Mexico was going through a lot of turmoil, and families saw the United States as a place of opportunity, and so I grew up, side by side with cousins who were undocumented, um, and but for the birth and nationality of my mom, my birth and her nationality, I would have been in the same situation.
Mm.
When I, grew up, my father said, please go become a lawyer and help your family. And that's what I did. I became a lawyer and then an immigration lawyer. And to the best of my ability, I helped my own family and thousands more. In my own journey, what I came to understand is that even though I had every motivation to help people and all the will in the world. The laws were so bad that for every one person I could help, there were nine I could not because the laws themselves did not allow it. And so I moved from it being a courtroom lawyer to policy work to try to change the law. Lawyers can only interpret the law, policymakers change the law. And so I went into policy work and realized, and I was at the ACLU then, and realized that policy itself without power isn't possible. At the time, I didn't believe that the power that ACLU was building was enough. That we needed to build broader power and power specifically in the affected community. And so that's when I founded Alliance San Diego to complement and supplement the good work of ACLU and many other organizations by building power. So I built an organization with other people that was explicitly about building power across communities that had in San Diego been siloed, the African American community, the Latino community, the even within the Latino community, the immigrant community, and the citizen community, the Asian community, Native American, so on. And so that's what I've been doing since with a dedicated group of people. We have close to 25 staff and
Mm.
grew the organization over 20 years. Next year will be our 20th year and grew the organization to build power to bring human rights home. For us, human rights is the horizon we should be reaching for. The Constitution is not the ceiling, it is the floor, and it is not enough. And so, through the work that we've been doing, we've come to understand the power of human rights. And most notably, we won a landmark case using a human rights vehicle. We won the case of Anastasio Hernandez Rojas, who was a San Diegan who was killed in 2010 by Border Patrol agents, who then attempted to cover up his very gruesome killing at the San Ysidro port of entry with lots of bystanders. I had the privilege of working alongside his widow, Maria, over since 2010, right? So for 15 years to fight for justice. And that case in particular sparked a movement, a human rights movement that was border based. And when the US laws failed us and the justice system was exhausted, then we worked with the Berkeley Law School's Human Rights Clinic to bring a case before the Inter-American Human Rights Commission, which is a body of the Americas. It's a offshoot of the United Nations. It pre-exists the United Nations formations through the Organization of American States, and it is a body that is used widely throughout the Americas, but is rarely used in the United States. And so it is the only body that you can go to and you can ask for the government, the US government, to answer. And that's what they had to do in the case that we brought against them for their abuse and their impunity. And in the end, last year, a year ago, we won before the Inter-American Commission. They issued a judgment that said not only that the agents involved were responsible for the killing of Anastasio and for the cover-up, but that the laws in the United States themselves violate human rights. And that is a very powerful finding.
Mm.
And that is something that we are now trying to leverage into policy change at the local, state, and federal level. And we are urging everyone around us to really tap into the mechanisms of human rights, not in a vague and ethereal way, but in a very concrete way. Know what the United States has committed to through its regional agreements, understand how to work in that system, and you don't have to be a lawyer to do that. And, start setting the horizon and the goalposts much further and stop negotiating the rights. And part of the problem of having partial movements, immigrant rights, LGBT, women's movements, is those are all negotiated movements where we're negotiating partial human rights as opposed to full human rights. And so we can speak in those terms because those are affinity groups and those are ways to galvanize people around particular interests. But at the end of the day, what we should all strive for and want is the full protection of human dignity, without exceptions, exclusions, or excuses. That should be our horizon. So that's the work that we do. And if it's okay, I'd love to share my screen so I can share a little bit more about what we offer, and then I can talk to you about what's going on right now and what I see as the landscape, if that's
That'd
okay.
be great. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Okay. So this is the Alliance San Diego website, and we have under our work a section called Immigration Services. And on this page, Um, we describe the services we provide. They're all free immigration services we provide, which are affirmative services, application-based services, like doc applications, adjustment of status, citizenship. We don't do defense work, but we have fought very hard for San Diego County to have a funded legal defense program. And in fact, the county is about to vote on a renewal of the funding for that program, the ILDP, and it will be, if all goes well, it will be the largest funded program in the United States. And that's a testament to the advocacy that many groups and people have been a part of. And so that vote is coming up on June 25th at the county. And if that's something of interest to your group, the June 25th vote at the county on their budget, that'll be, I believe, the last vote. The ILDP, the Immigrant Legal Defense Program, is in that budget, and we want to keep it there. So far, so good. It looks good.
But
But
are you trying to get more money for that?
no, I mean, we've asked for the 15 million. That's what's in the budget. That would be great. That that would be amazing. That would be fully funding the program.
Which that's how much they have now?
they have a budget that they have to vote on. So we want them to vote yes on that budget, yes to the ILDP program that's part of that budget right now.
Okay.
And so on our website, people can sign up for a free immigration consultation. And we have a pretty innovative way of handling consultations. Consultations tend to be a bottleneck in the county for the legal service providers. And so we try to alleviate that bottleneck by opening up every other week we have walk-in consultations. And so ideally, people are telling us they want a consultation, giving us a heads up, and then we will do it either via Zoom or via phone. That makes it a lot easier for people. It's safer if they're worried about being out and about, right? So we give folks that option. Of course, they can come into the office as well, but we really try to do as much as we can over the phone and over Zoom. And so that when they do come in, it's really to just sign papers and turn in applications. And so that is available. And so if anyone ever asks you, where do I go, for immigration help, if they don't already have it, well, the first step can be a free consultation. And if it's something we can help them with, we'll let them know and we'll start moving. If it's something that one of our partners is better equipped to handle, or it's a deportation case, then we will direct them to the ILDP or to other agencies, or if they are interested in a legal service provider or private law firm, then we have a referral list based on the people who support our workshops. So that's there. And then I also wanted to flag that we also have Know Your Rights information. Um, the an immigration enforcement operation, the average length of an immigration enforcement operation is about 3 minutes. So that is not enough time for you to call anyone or get any help. Sometimes there are people in the area and they can help, right? But many times, most times, there's not enough time. And so it's really important that people exercise their rights as a first line of defense. And so we have been distributing Know Your Rights material. This is also, on a lot of our partners' websites. Alliance San Diego runs and staffs the San Diego Immigrant Rights Consortium, SDIRC, which is made up of about 50 immigrants and refugee serving organizations in the county. And so, together we came up with common Know Your Rights material. We urge you to share these. It's in this form. It is an 8.5 sheet that you can download in English, Spanish, Arabic, Farsi, Kurdish, Pashto. We're working on more languages. It is a 2-page document that is really comprehensive and speaks specifically to what you need to know in San Diego County, because there are specific rules that apply within border regions, right? And so I'll just download one for you so you can see what to do. And I'm happy to answer questions about the Know Your Rights information, but it's really important that people understand that who has to show immigration documents, who does not. If you're within 100 miles of the land and sea borders, which we are, what are the immigrant rights powers? And then what are your rights to offset those powers? What's the difference between a judicial warrant, which is the only warrant that you have to answer to, or an agency or administrative warrant? So we provide that information. And then scenarios, if an agent comes to your work or school or other place, or if you're arrested, and then how to help someone who is arrested. And this is really helpful information. I get a lot of calls. Somebody just arrested so and so, and I point them back to this because they don't need somebody to an intermediary, they can look themselves. They can go to the website, the locator website, or they can, if they have an A number for somebody, they can call the case system to understand if there's a hearing date. These are things that you can do yourselves. And then if you need to fight a deportation case, information about the ILDP, or trusted legal service providers who are funded by the state of California. So they've already gone through a substantial amount of vetting, and then information about the Mexican consulate and other consulates. And then a little bit more information about what could happen if you've been here less than 2 years, because that you could be expeditiously removed without the right to go to court. And so people should be aware of that and what they should carry as evidence of their presence, and what to do if you're a bystander, and then the importance of making an emergency plan with some links to resources. And so that's that's some information there. And then lastly, I'll just say, you may have seen the orange and green door hangers that we distribute. It's the same information, but in a door hanger form. And we have to date distributed about 75,000 of those. We make them available everywhere we go. We have somebody embedded in the Mexican consulate who's distributing those at about 100 a day
Mm.
to try to get them out. And so for people who are wanting to help, and maybe they're going to a place, or they know somebody who can help distribute, maybe a grocery store or an event, and you need some, just call us. We'll give you as many as you want. And we need all the help we can get to distribute these. We've distributed those first 75,000 with the help of a lot of partners and volunteers and community college students who have done walks for us. If you're interested in doing any of those walks, we do, regular walks to distribute these in neighborhoods. Again, it's the first line of defense for the community members. I'll just tell you an anecdote, which is I myself went to an event that the Mexican consulate was hosting in a rural part of the county, and I went and I volunteered there with our materials, because I wanted to make sure people got the information. And this little boy came up, and he was about 8 years old, and he saw the door hanger and he said, "Can I have one of those?" He recognized it, and he said, "I want one of those for my own door, like his bedroom door." And I said, "Of course." I said, "Does your mom need one?" He said, "No, she had one, but she didn't listen. She didn't read it. And as a result, they took my grandfather from my house. Agents had come. She had had the door hanger, but she didn't follow it. And her son, and this is heartbreaking, but her son had pled with her, "Mom," because he had read the thing. He was like, "Mom, do the things, don't answer the questions." And she came over while he was talking to me, and then she explained, I thought they wouldn't, I thought it was better to answer their questions. She had papers, but her father did not. And she thought, well, I thought if I answered the questions rather than remain silent, and if I let them in, even though they didn't have a judicial warrant, that things would go well. Well, of course, they didn't go well, and she didn't understand, like, the gravity, or the just the meanness and the cruelty of agents who aren't going to care that you are trying to be nice. And so as a result, her son
Mm.
felt like he needed to protect himself
Mm.
from agents, even though he was born here. He was so shaken by that experience that he wanted a door hanger for his own door. And so we know how powerful the information can be and how effective it can be. And we would love every human being in San Diego to have it, because it's not just relevant to immigrants, of course. It is also relevant to anybody who would be approached by any law enforcement. The rules are the same. So I wanted to share that with you. And then lastly, if anyone is interested in a workshop, and this is, could be aimed at bystanders, or it could be aimed at immigrants themselves. We have done a ton of webinars on resources that people need to know. Uh, and we have a YouTube channel that's chock full of them. And Beryl, I sent you the link to the YouTube
Right.
channel. And we are constantly having events. We just had a big one this week. So in any event, those are the things that we offer in terms of information, consultations, and workshops. I forgot to mention now that I see it here, the if you're interested in the Anastasio case in particular, the Anastasio case was the subject of, and that's the case that we recently won before the Inter-American Commission. It was recently the subject of a HBO documentary. HBO approached us like 10 years ago, and they said, we want to put together a documentary, and we've heard about this case. So they followed us for many years, and they became a part of the investigation that helped break open the case. And so it tells that story. It's a very empowering story of what people can do. So it's an HBO original called Critical Incident: Death at the Border. I'm told that it may now be available on Netflix, as well as HBO, and it just won an Emmy last week. So
Oh,
for
congratulations.
yeah, for best documentary. And so they interview me, they interview a number of people, and they really feature the widow, Maria, who has become a civil rights champion, a human rights champion in her own right. So that's an overview. And I'll pause because I want to give you guys a chance to ask questions, but I can also talk about the landscape and what's going on right now. And I'll come off of our shared screen.
How
Hi,
can
Beryl.
oh, hello. How can we get a copy of the information sheet? I work with a mentor, a gal, and her parents are both undocumented. I'm not sure they have a lawyer, they're going through the court, but I'd like to have one that I can give to her, make sure they're aware of their rights.
Yeah, well, so all that information is available on our website. So you can just, print it
Okay.
out. It's an eight
Oh,
and a half by 11. And again, I'll drop in the link, but I also sent it to Beryl, excuse me. Uh, just one second. Let me grab the link. I'll share that with you. There you go. So you can just grab it in the language that you need and download it and print it. It's that the one on the website is set up for people to just download and print. And or share digitally, or you can share the link and they can look at it themselves. If you're interested in distributing the door hangers, just let us know and we'll give you some.
Beryl, this is
yes.
Ruth. We didn't get to introduce ourselves to Andrea, and now that we have a full house, maybe could we do that?
Yes, quickly. Go ahead, Ruth.
Andrea knows me, but welcome, Andrea.
Gail? Wait, you're muted.
Sorry, Gail Viamonte.
Um, are you from San Diego, Gail?
I'm sorry, San Diego, the women
S-
voters. Yes. I've
yeah.
been here about 4.5 years, and I just want to say how impressed I am in terms of how you went from personal commitment to the um, advisory policy making to the power. It's really wonderful.
Penny? Yeah, I'm Penny Adler. I chair the League's Education Committee. but I work with mentor many students, of which a few have illegal. Usually they're legal, it's their parents that are the issue, and they're doing what they can. So I'd like to make sure they're all aware of the information that you guys provide. That's very, very good.
Judy?
I'm Judy Griffin. I am a member of the San Diego League of Women Voters, and I volunteer with detention resistance down at the immigration courts.
Okay. Lois, you're muted. You're muted, Lois.
I'm Lois Knowlton, and I'm a member of the United Women with Faith. And in fact, I've got my shirt on today. Thursdays are Pink Shirt Day, and and so and are connected primarily with the Methodist Church, but it's include all. I was a missionary in Argentina and in Laredo, Texas for 10 years, my first 10 years of my career life with my husband. So Spanish, being able to speak Spanish and teacher at Southwestern College. So.
Okay, thank you. Diane?
Diane Bianchi, League of Women Voters, Diablo Valley, which is in Northern California. I'm co-chair of our immigration team, and we have a lot going on up here, especially since the San Francisco court closed. So it's now all focused in Concord, and we're experiencing those mass immigration hearings that
Yes.
Mary, hi.
Hi, my name is Mary Nees. Andrea knows me, and this league committee puts up with me because they all know that I'm waiting for the days that we could. It's going to be years before we can push for comprehensive immigration reform. So there we go. Thanks.
Carol?
Hi, I'm Carol Fisher, and I am the co-lead in Orange County, League of Women Voters. And I'm sorry I missed so much, but my computer just broke on me. So I'm curious to get online and get the information. Thank you.
Carol, I can send you the recording.
Thank you.
But I need your email. If you put it in the chat, please.
Yes.
Glenn.
Hi, everybody. I've been lurking back here, but listening. Thank you, Andrea, for the presentation. I'm going to pass some of this information along to the folks here in San Luis Obispo County because you have some links in your Know Your Rights that I'm not sure we're using. So thank you for that.
Okay. Barbara, you're muted too. Barbara? No. Sharon?
I'm Sharon Reed. I live in San Diego, came back to the League of Women Voters in my retirement from UCSD Health. And I have helped with some immigrant clinics, but I'm very excited about hearing about the Alliance and look forward to supporting it in the future. Thank you.
Okay, that's us for today. So back to the SDIRC. What are they doing?
So SDIRC is the coalition that we run that does a lot of shared advocacy together. And so we come together, for example, to fight for the San Diego County Immigrant Legal Defense Program, the ILDP. We have come together in times of crisis to respond to influxes like the Haitian influx of 2016 or the various Central American influxes before and after to organize ourselves into a support system for community members. We also have fought for state level legislation, and won some pretty important stuff, including we authored legislation to prevent anyone in the state, any public official in the state of California from asking for identification following a disaster that would have prevented people getting disaster aid. We did that as an outgrowth of the 2007 fires here, where city employees were asking people for ID before they would give them diapers and water. So that is no longer a thing. We have also fought for, N1 AB 60, which was the law to allow licenses for undocumented drivers, which is a game changer. And then more recently, we have fought for N1 with state partners, the California Values Act, which prevents California law enforcement from passing anyone off or giving any information to federal law enforcement, with limited exceptions. And right now, as in today, right now, we are fighting against the governor's proposal to allow DMV to send driver data out of state through what they call a state-to-state verification program. And so we're in the middle of that fight, and we'll see how that goes. But sometimes your frenemies bring you down. So we're in that fight right now. So it's mainly advocacy and emergency response. And then the individual organizations, do their thing, right? So we have legal service providers in that group. We have community groups who are providing mutual aid. We have labor groups who are made up of a lot of immigrants. So, and faith groups who have also immigrant constituents. So it's a collective that is a powerful collective, and it's part of our building power, right? Which is what we need to do. Which is the reason for being for Alliance San Diego, is building power. Sometimes that's building power by bringing organizations together and coalitions. Sometimes that's building power at the ballot box, bringing voters together, bringing volunteers together, bringing people in the streets together to build power, to bring about change, principally to bring human rights home.
Are you allowed to advocate or support candidates, or no, you can't? And then if so, can you tell us anything we should know regarding the current people running for two guys running for governor and so on?
Well, we have a 501c3. That's Alliance San Diego, and that's the hat I'm wearing today. We also have a 501c4, and we have engaged with you at the local level through that. That's Alliance San Diego Mobilization Fund, and most recently we stood shoulder to shoulder on a local measure around housing, Measure A. We've fought together in the trenches. We've litigated together. And in terms of candidates, sometimes we do come out for or against candidates when they are aligned with or not aligned with the issues that we care most about. Right now, we have not taken positions on candidates. We may do so going into November. I think the governor's race is pretty self-explanatory right now with the two candidates. So I'll leave that to your review. But otherwise, I'm not in a position to talk about candidates today.
Okay.
But I am happy to talk about other landscape issues, but I want to make sure that you all have a chance to ask questions.
Are there more questions, Ruth?
I have a question. Those door hangers are just great, but I wondered if they could be translated, or maybe already have been, into Haitian Creole.
Yeah, so the door hangers are in English and Spanish and other languages. The same information is on our website in multiple languages. We do need to get them translated into additional languages. I think we have 6 languages right now, and we have we'd like to get them into another 6. So we're working on that.
But does it include
including Haitian Creole?
So Creole's coming, you're saying?
Yeah, and we do a lot of work in the Haitian community. And so they do have some material that they've developed on their own. They've drawn from our material, translated it, and then given it to their community. What we do know about the Haitian community in San Diego is that they're, largely Spanish speakers because they came up through South America.
Mm.
And so we know that their preferred language is Haitian Creole, but we also know that they have very strong Spanish and sometimes Portuguese language skills.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do
All
you
right.
have,
So the League of Women Voters of the United States is the one who does the advocacy for us, which is kind of limiting at the local level. But they're having a convention, and the League of Women Voters of Washington State has proposed a human rights position to be adopted by the National League. And the leader of that is named Susan Martin. And I'd kind of like to check with her to make sure she knows about the case you won, because it sounds right up her alley. If not, I might connect you to so that you can explain it, not through me. um, so I'll let you know about that.
Sure. And I will drop in a link for you about that case.
Oh, good. Okay.
But you can also watch actually, and the link includes a short video, and it includes information about the HBO documentary that just won an Emmy, which I highly recommend. Yeah, so we're trying as much as possible to house everything on our website so that there are no obstacles to you getting information. You can go straight to the website and get that information.
Good. Okay. And do you think that people who are undocumented have legal rights to legal advice?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the work that we
Yeah.
do and many others do in the United
Yeah.
States.
I mean, that's apparently the issue that might hold this up at the convention. But
Well, it shouldn't hold it up because, as limited as our Constitution is, it does um, explicitly allow for rights of all people. The language is persons, it's not citizens. So that should not be in contention for your group. I'm happy to, you know, confer on any of this at your convenience. I would love to just provide you some landscape information so you have a sense of what's been happening, what's going to happen. Does that sound okay?
that sounds
I'm
good.
just-
Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm just watching the clock.
Yeah.
Okay, so uh, we have an immigration agency or Department of Homeland Security that houses two big groups, the Customs and Border Protection, which is what Border Patrol is a part of, and ICE. Everyone's familiar with ICE. All right. ICE gets a lot of notoriety, but they are a much smaller agency. And it's very important to understand that CBP is the larger threat. Um, you know, because most of the country is not aware of CBP because historically they've mostly operated in the border buffer of 100 miles around the country. Maybe they haven't seen them except at an airport. But what you should know is that within 100 miles of the land and sea borders and within 100 miles of all international airports. So we're talking about probably 90% of the population in the United States are subject to the jurisdiction of CBP and and ICE, and they have more power than any other law enforcement agency in the country. Congress gave them special powers in the 1950s that allow them to stop you and question you anywhere, that allow them to And we don't concede these powers, but these are how Congress wrote them in the 1950s. They granted them the power to search vehicles, cars, trains, planes, automobiles, boats, etc. And that's why we have checkpoints because of those powers. Interior checkpoints inside the country on every major road in and out of San Diego. And then they also have the power to enter onto your private property within 25 miles of these borders, right? And so they have, for example, come into the yard of my aunts and walk through and, ostensibly looking for somebody, and that's terrifying. That is terrifying, regardless of your status. So these are some of their extra special powers. All right, so this agency, or this department, DHS, which is made up of CBP and ICE, is the largest law enforcement agency or set of agencies in the country, larger than all of the others combined.
Mm.
And they have these extraordinary powers, and more recently, they have extraordinary resources and extraordinary jurisdiction, and that is a triple threat. And all of those together I liken them to the Ring of Sauron in Lord of the Rings. One ring to find them, one ring to bind them, and one ring to rule them all. And if we are ever serious about protecting the people in this country, what it will take is marching up Mount Doom and throwing that ring into the fire. That whole statute needs to go. Never should have been created in the first place. It's too much power. We're not in a position to do that right now, but we are working to create the conditions for that change. And we are humble enough to know that it might not be us, it might be the generation that follows, but it's up to us to create the conditions for change. So what is happening right now? This week, these DHS agencies were just funded to the tune of $70 billion. That's on top of the more than 100-something billion dollars that they were given last year and through special budget process that doesn't require going through a regular process where guardrails could have been imposed. So there are no guardrails on that money. That money extends all the way out to 2029. So what that means is these agencies, regardless of the regular appropriations process, are fully funded, super overfunded through the duration of the Trump administration. So they are supersized, and this will allow them to do everything that they want to do without financial limitations, and there's no accountability on that money. That is a very dangerous situation for us to be in. And so it is possible that if, Congress is flipped in November, that we can, retroactively try to get some guardrails in there, but that's where we're at. So that's the enforcement side. I'll just say that San Diego has always known enforcement. We're not new to enforcement, and we have the highest levels of enforcement in the whole country. We don't hear about it as much because long before there was a Minnesota and a Portland and other places, on the regular, we would have operations happening in San Diego. And, again, we just have to right size our shock because it is no shock at all. What has happened is the borderification of the country. And so our reality has become the reality of communities around the country. And, it is not singular to the Trump administration. Under the Obama years, Obama, quite frankly, deported more people than Trump has to date. And so, it's these special powers, extraordinary resources, and agencies that have never been in check since they've been in existence. So in addition to, the ongoing operations, which we will continue to see throughout the country with very limited ability to check them, we have now mass immigration hearings that are starting this week. And in San Diego, we're going to see the first ones tomorrow. And those are hearings with 100 people at a time that will be not given due process and will be summarily ordered deported, right? And so we are seeing a breakdown of the limited protections, due process protections, civil liberties protections that we have. They've never been enough, but we are seeing a breakdown of them. And even though all of these things are being challenged in court, you know, the damage is done long before the programs are stopped. And so, like, it can feel overwhelming, but I think what we have to remember is that we can turn this around, but we do need to build power to do it. It won't be overnight. And we do have to, stem the harm where we can, which is why it's so important to distribute the Know Your Rights information, to accompany families going through the process. And I can't remember who it was, if it was
Judy's.
Judy.
Mm-hmm.
Judy, who's doing the detention accompaniment. Yeah, that's really important work, right? So, and these are some of the fundamentals of human rights work. You know, you are constantly trying to change systems to protect people, but in the interim, accompaniment is everything. Accompaniment of families through hardship so that they know that they are not alone. That is how you honor their dignity while we're fighting to change systems, right? And I would say in terms of, in addition to sharing information, accompanying families, showing up in moments of advocacy, not just at the federal level or about federal issues, but at the state and local level as well, because there's a lot going on there. But also support to the extent that you are able, and some of you support our organization. I'm grateful for that. But support the organizations who are doing this work because it takes an enormous amount of effort for us to do this work. And we're doing it at a time when foundations are stepping back and stepping away from organizations like ours. So we are one example of many who are now operating very close to the edge of having to let go of staff because foundations are protecting their own assets at a time when they too are being scrutinized. So these are all the ways that you can help.
Do you have anyone in Washington?
We do. We have a dedicated staff member there. We have 3 people dedicated to our national work.
Good. Okay, are there other questions?
The only thing I'd like to know, Andrea, is since I'm not in San Diego, are there other areas in Southern California before I go and look it up
Other areas
that
in
have
Southern.
Alliance?
Oh, well,
Is it
Alliance
strictly a San Diego?
Well, so Alliance San Diego, we're based in San Diego. We do work from San Diego, but we work at the local, state, and federal level because that's where the levers of change are. If you're interested in supporting local organizations to where you are, I'm happy to feel free to email me and I can reach out to you. And I'll put my email in the chat. But also just a plug for our organization, even if you're not here locally, just because statewide we are anchoring a lot of statewide work.
Okay, because the reason I'm so interested in San Diego is because my grandkids are there, my kids are there,
Yeah.
And even though they're not in the actual situation because they do have papers, they don't
Uh-huh.
look like me.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's what we know about hate, and that's what we know about division, and that the assaults come
yeah,
for more than just the immediate target, right? And I could share many a story about even though I have fair skin, being stopped on a train and asked for my
yep,
papers and asked
yep,
where I was born. And of course, I wasn't born in the United States, so answering that question would have landed me across the border, and I was stopped because I was speaking Spanish to my father on the phone, right?
mm,
So, yeah, this is
yep,
personal and it's
yes,
real, and
yes,
and you don't have to be the target for it to be personal to you,
yes,
because we are our sisters and brothers keepers, right?
right.
Andrea, I have to hop off for a board meeting shortly, but I have a question. We have right now in front of it's called an equity committee. It's here in the county, an ordinance that's to limit the interactions, I say interactions, but the um, restricting the use of
Yep.
county resources to assist or cooperate with immigration authorities. Is there anything like that down there? I know that Los Angeles and other groups have done well with this. We have a conservative council who's trying to
Yeah.
find barriers, and we're fighting it. And I just wanted to pick your brain quickly before I jump off for this board meeting.
Yeah, we have what's called a due process ordinance that's passed at both the county level and the city of San Diego and some of the other smaller cities around the county, and those are absolutely important, and those policies are being replicated around the state.
Could you talk about the detention center in Otay Mesa? On Sunday, there's a major event called Many Flags, One Humanity, and the laws that are keeping us from doing more than we should be able to have to help those that are detained.
Yeah, no, great question. Yeah, the immigration detention system across the country is abhorrent. It has been supersized under Trump. There are more detainees than there is capacity. Rules that, impose mandatory detention without regard for humanity are egregious. In the human rights context, detention should be a solution of last resort. But in this administration, it's a solution of first resort. And then, of course, there are restrictions imposed on advocates and bystanders who are outside trying to get in, and that includes members of Congress, right? And that is an ongoing fight. And I think it's absolutely important to show up to events at the detention center, you know, like, do not comply in advance. That is how we keep authoritarianism and fascism from rising. Like, get out there and be loud, and or be funny or be joyful. Bring your, frog suits or your dinosaur suits or whatever. Make noise, make music, make joy. Uh, you know, Keep vigil. There's a hunger strike going on right now in some of the detention centers around the country. Everything we can do to muck up the system, slow it down is absolutely essential. Mary.
Okay. The super detention hearings you're talking about, the 100 people starting tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what, how often are they going to be happening? What is the current status of locking down the federal courts downtown and keeping people out or citing them if they're in the hallways, et cetera? As far as advocacy, what should one expect if one wants to protest the 100 people at a time, or at least bear witness
Yeah,
on this thing?
so the mega masters, they're calling them mega masters. Nobody knows how they're going to operate, not even the DHS attorneys. They've been given no information about this. And so, we're going to just have to see how this rolls out. There are attorneys who will be bearing witness like inside. And for those who are outside, I would confer with people like Judy and others who are part of the court resistance effort. And then in turn, I mean, there's some basics about
The same,
rights.
know your rights. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, but the folks who have organized themselves outside of the courts, or outside of the detention centers, I mean, follow their lead. I wouldn't try to set up anything independent or separate because we should be trying to build power.
And so is there anything scheduled other than this Friday? And would I reach out to my pals in detention resistance to find out that, or do you have any other dates that such a hearing is scheduled?
Yeah, so we're learning in real time when these are being scheduled. So and of course the government, will change on a dime. Like that's what we've seen them do. So I think I would confer with those groups to see what they are doing and what they're aware of. What I'm aware of is the first one is on Friday. I am aware, after having talked to DHS attorneys, that they do not know. They have not been given information. So if they don't know, it's unlikely we're going to find out anything before they do. And, this is political theater in many ways. And there will be challenges to it, and that will go straight to the courts, and there'll be an attempt to get, an injunction on all of this craziness, just as has been happening over the last 2 years. So confer with the people on the ground, and to get the up-to-date scoop, and just stay tuned in.
Are you aware of any plan by the city or the county to counter ICE and CBP moving in here in large numbers and starting to arrest everybody like they did in Minnesota?
Yeah, so just to level set, we have always had more agents than Minnesota had in those weeks. So there's no like moving into San Diego for Minnesota style. They've been here, they've been doing that for as long as I've been practicing immigration law, and that's been 30 years. So we should just be aware of that. Like they're rolling through this neighborhood where I'm sitting right now regularly, and they've been doing that for decades. So, is the city or is the county doing anything? Yes, the county has sued to gain access, and seek review of what's going on, the health conditions and other conditions in the detention centers. The city is, also attempting to bring suit where they can. But, these are all very limited actions. It all adds up to something, though, that is important. I think what we want to do is not spread panic, but spread power, especially in Southern California. We don't want to put out there that like there's going to be something new that we've never seen before, because that is not honoring all of the trauma and tragedy and advocacy that's been going on for decades, right? We want to acknowledge that this has been going on in Southern California for decades, and that it's more visible now, and it's more the tragedy of it and the trauma of it is more quickly felt and spread because of social media. But as someone who's been doing this work for so long, the stories mount up, and so we want to spread power and not panic. We want to, eyes wide open, recognize that immigrant communities have been facing this for a long time. Now the rest of the country is starting to feel, what we know. And we want to be prepared, as we always have needed to be, with the Know Your Rights information and understand that we are our first and best self-defense. That if operations are averaging 3 minutes, there's no time to do very much. We see the social media reels of like the interventions, that's 1 in 1,000 because they're happening so fast. So we all need to make the best we can do right now is make sure everybody has the information they need to exercise their immediate rights. And that if somebody is detained, that we know how to help them, right? We're not going to wring our hands, and we're not going to also self-aggrandize. There are a lot of influencers out there who are making careers out of following people, and it's very centered on them. And what we're encouraging people to do is to center the needs of the immigrants. And so what they need is information, what they need is resources, what they need is less of a, social media reel about the influencer who's watching it, and they need like actual information, like how can we get information to their family about where they are, about the legal services available to them, and what do they need, and to be real about it and invest if you're going to do this work, like invest in it by joining a group, building power, and getting information to folks. So, I mean, the reality is a lot of people who have been detained are not going to have a remedy. They're not going to be able to get out. And that's not a matter of banging on the doors. That's the banging on the doors is important because we can't let this pass quietly in the night, right? But we also have to recognize that what immigrants are going to need is the information, the support, and the resources. The families left behind, often are struggling financially. They need support. The families that, so a lot of our presentations right now are focused on like, what is your emergency preparedness plan? Especially around caregivers, because the caregiver rules have changed. What, who will you call? What will you do? And work with the experts and the organizations, who are guiding people through this tragedy and trauma. And as people who accompany them, that is very meaningful work to accompany a family through this. I just had to counsel a woman from Laos, a family whose loved one was picked up, and she's going to be returned in this, like there's no legal avenue for her to stay. And so I had to just say to the family, the best you can do is help figure out what your next plan is, right? Because if you're stuck on getting somebody out who's doesn't have a legal avenue, then you're losing time in thinking about how will that person survive when they show up in Laos, the country they haven't been in for 25 years. Where will they go? What will they do? Will they stay in Laos? Will they try to go somewhere else? What are the dangers that they face? And for the family left behind, are there children? Like, what are the needs in the community that need to be addressed, right? So there are a lot of moving parts to what we need to do. And I would just say that, the accompaniment work is really important. The Know Your Rights dissemination is really important, and the advocacy is really important. Those are the three things that we need to stay focused on, and spread power and not panic, and build power, not panic.
Very powerful message you have. I sure appreciate it. Any other questions?
I just want to put a really big exclamation mark on what Congress did in the last day or so. And that I think that the league, and because it's a nationwide issue, the league needs to not ignore it. They have funded a level 7 times normal CBP, ICE, overall DHS, for the rest of Trump's tenure. As Andrea says, the Congress can put guardrails on that fund, on those funds, but regardless of the November elections, even if one or both houses are flipped, that funding exists for the rest, 7 times the normal amount for the rest of this administration. And my new sign is going to be shame on Congress. And what would your family have done if the levels of CBP were 7 times the normal? How many families historically would have been impacted if at the current level, and have people to think about that.
Well, the league put out a letter right after that, but that's all they seem to do.
Well, your faces are recognizable to me, so I know that you guys are showing up in multiple spaces, um, and I think the league, we recently ran a poll and we learned that the League of Women Voters is the most trusted, entity in San Diego County, and that's probably true nationwide. And so what you say matters, and the stronger you say it, the more impact you will have. And that is then leverage for everyone else and political cover. So I think those words matter, and then you match those words with local work or statewide work. If there's one thing that you could do at the state level right now, it would be to weigh in, and I'm happy to provide information with whoever I need to, but to weigh in right now to ask the Senate and Assembly to not fund the proposed transfer of DMV data out of state, because once it goes out of state, we will not be able to protect people's identity, whether those are immigrants or LGBTQ community members or women whose birth names don't match their ID names. That is the fight we're in today. And that is something that you all could weigh in on today if there's a mechanism to do that.
Do you have a specific letter or something you've written on that?
Yes, I can share a letter that maybe League of Women Voters could echo.
We could send it to the state league.
That's great.
And then, Andrea, are you supporting the two bills that passed the Assembly and will come to the Senate on the 24th of April of this month, that eliminate any subsidies to groups that work with the detention centers and so forth?
Yeah, I think all of these efforts are really important. Coming out of the legislature to try to cut off support or we call them pillars of support of the administration, right? So we're going after the pillars of support and in these kinds of bills, and yes, they are absolutely important. Should note that none of these bills will matter if California Governor Newsom's proposed transfer of data out of state goes through, because then it won't matter that we're restricting everybody from passing information or whatever, because we will have allowed DMV to just wholesale turn over personally identifiable information, and then they won't need anything else. And why we're doing it, is political, and Governor Newsom is on his way out, so what does he care? But self-inflicted harm is like if we're spending our time trying to keep our frenemies from causing that kind of harm, it gets a lot harder, right, to go for the bigger reform.
Well, thank you very much, Andrea. This is a lot of time you've given us, and it's a very powerful message you have, and your group is working on. We're trying to keep up with what all the organizations are doing, and as you can see, a lot of us are helping in one way or another.
Well, I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything that the league does. I know how hard you guys are working to bring this country to a true democracy, and that matters.
Yeah, unfortunately, the state and local league are focusing more on voting, so we're kind of not the center of their interest at the moment. But
Yeah,
we don't want to give up either. So
don't give up. Don't give
we
up. Well,
we
thank
have
you
a
so much.
large list that follows what we do. They don't all show up in meetings, but we write up notes from all the meetings. Now this recording, we just use it for notes, but we could put it on the website if you're willing.
Oh yeah, no
Okay.
secrets.
Okay. All right.
Well, thank
Great.
you so much. I have to run, but Beryl, I will send you the letter that we have sent to the legislature on the DMV issue, and to the extent that League of Women Voters California or even local League of Women Voters could write a letter in, if that's possible, that would be really helpful.
That's great. Okay. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
All right. Take care. Wonderful.